Hey guys, I saw some movies at the We Are One Global Film Festival, which was an online film festival held in support of COVID-19 relief charities. I know I said I'd be doing film reviews in one big catch-up video once this whole thing was over, which it almost is, but I wanted to cover these in the normal film festival format, especially since there wasn't that many of them. I caught two of these movies after their premiere, and one of them at their premiere, but as for the rest, I was a bit busy at the time of the festival and was not able to watch them. That being said, do not worry, I have my priorities in order, because the first film at this festival I watched was Crazy World, the latest movie from Hollywood. Now this was the first film that played at the festival, and it was actually the only film I caught the premiere of, and I gotta say, watching a Hollywood movie with over 1,000 people is quite the experience. For those of you unaware, Hollywood are the same filmmakers behind masterpieces such as Who Killed Captain Alex. Who Killed Captain Alex is kind of a hilarious, unintentional comedy that feels intentional due to the inclusion of a VJ, and it becomes a legitimate good movie thanks to that. That being said, Crazy World is just straight up a comedy, and it excels in its humor. This film is extremely funny both on its own and with VJ Emmy's commentary. The plot is insane in the best kind of way. The acting's good, and the child actors were surprisingly great considering just how young they were. The action is nuts and a lot of fun, and as with Who Killed Captain Alex, the stunt choreography was really well thought out. I enjoyed the movie's tone, it had some hilarious dialogue, and to my surprise, some of the serious dialogue was actually pretty well written. There is one scene where the characters are talking about society and it feels parody level, but at the same time I don't know how intentional that was, so I'm willing to give them a pass there. The success of Who Killed Captain Alex clearly paid off because there was a definite budget increase between that and this, and the props in particular in this movie looked really good. The location was utilized really well. There were a lot of things this did better than Who Killed Captain Alex, and as a whole I would call the film an upgrade, but there were some aspects where I was surprised that they were worse. The editing is much worse this time around. A lot of modern day action movies have a problem where they decide to fast cut as many times as they can because it makes the movie more tense in their eyes, when in reality it just makes things jarring and hard to tell what's going on. And with Who Killed Captain Alex, I was able to appreciate that movie's editing because it did not do that. And with Crazy World, there's lots of scenes where for the most part you can tell what's happening, but unfortunately a few scenes in this movie fall victim to that issue. This film also follows a few separate characters that interweave into the same storyline, and some of them just don't feel necessary at all and add nothing to the movie. With one of these characters I could at least say they had some good humor, but with the other one there was absolutely no reason for them to even be there. All in all though, even though I've seen Who Killed Captain Alex multiple times and I've only seen Crazy World once, I think I actually prefer this already, both in terms of entertainment value and being an actual movie. This is probably the most batshit film I have seen all year, and I would highly recommend it. And I'm giving Crazy World an 8 out of 10. Next up I saw A City Called Macau, and I liked it. This is a really fascinating look into the Macau gambling scene from 1999 to the crash in 2014, and I gotta say the first act and second act of this movie are extremely strong. The acting was good across the board bar a couple of scenes. The cinematography was excellent and it made great use of the location and set design, which were also both excellent. The musical score is the best of the year so far. The script is fantastic, with the dialogue being especially great. The writing doesn't always work throughout these first two acts, but when it does work, it is phenomenal. Unfortunately, the first two acts of this movie have some things that really hold it back, mostly the editing. Quite frankly, the editing choices in this movie are honestly embarrassing. In particular, there's a lot of unnecessary cuts that jolt the pacing, although I guess that doesn't matter to the film too much because the pacing is a mess. I understand that this movie is trying to cover 15 years, but at the same time, things go by way too quickly at some points, and while it is investing, some things feel underdeveloped. It certainly isn't helped by how inconsistent the time frame of this movie is. The film does tell you when it is jumping between years, but the jumps are always kind of random. It'll jump 4 years, then 2 years, then 1 year, then 4 years again. It is never consistent, but at least with those cases they actually tell you what year it is. There's a flashback scene in the movie, but we never find out when it takes place. And even within these years, there is no consistency or time frame whatsoever. For a while I presumed it was just a day-by-day structure, but then at one point one of the characters says to another, "Hey, you're on day 6 of 10 of this thing," and then in the last scene they were not even on day 1 yet. Sometimes they'll just imply that months have passed, but they'll never ever actually make anything clear. Also, this is a movie that takes place over the course of 15 years, but nobody ever ages. Still, this film would have a much higher score than it does if the third act was at least good, but it's not. Outside of the cinematography and the music, the last 40 minutes of this movie are flat out awful. The acting and writing quality just plunges. Quite frankly, the last act of this movie made me thankful for the awful pacing, because if this had dragged on, I would have been much more upset with this last act. As it is, it's still an awful last act, but at least it feels quick. Anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say about this movie. This is an 8 or 9 out of 10 movie with a 2 out of 10 last act. But that being said, I would still recommend it overall. Sitting for the awful third act was worth it just to see the first and second act, and honestly the subject matter, cinematography, and music are reason enough to see it anyway. And I'm giving A City Called Macau a 6 out of 10. The final movie I saw was Air Conditioner, and I loved it. This movie has a very interesting concept that could have been goofy if it was done badly, but thankfully, instead of going full on with the concept, the film was much more character driven and it worked really well for the tone it was going for. All of the characters are interesting, and the protagonists in particular are very likable and well developed. The writing as a whole is very strong, with an interesting story and great dialogue. The monologues in particular are fantastic. All of the performances are phenomenal, and Philomena Manuel, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I will put her name on the screen, in particular gave the best performance of the year so far. I loved the cinematography and I really enjoyed its major use of long takes. The color palette was very interesting, the lighting choices were excellent, the movie made great use of location for its shots. The movie's style overall was very interesting and well executed. There's a large focus on the music in the movie, and it was very effective, and all of the music worked well with the movie's themes. The sound design and sound editing was phenomenal. I enjoyed the tone and pacing of the movie. Towards the end of the film, it goes for a very uncomfortable, unnerving tone, and it nails it perfectly. That being said, there were a few weirdly placed cuts here and there, but overall, this is honestly a masterpiece. This is without a doubt in my mind the best movie of 2020 so far, and I would highly recommend checking it out as soon as you get the chance. I get the feeling that outside of this festival, this film is going to go criminally overlooked, and considering just how amazing this movie is, I really do not want that to happen. So yeah, check it out, best movie of the year so far, and it will take a lot to beat it. And I'm giving Air Conditioner a 10 out of 10. Hey guys, I would like to take a quick moment at the end of this video to talk to you about what is currently going on in the world. I wasn't quite sure how to tackle this on my channel, but I knew I wanted to. This is pretty much the one social media I have where I have not been vocal about this issue. However, with YouTube in particular, I do not want to take the spotlight away from other people who could use it a lot more right now. So as well as putting links to petitions and places you can donate in the description of this video, I will also be linking these channels, because it is about time that everyone actually started supporting black creators. Now, I don't plan on going into Black Lives Matter that much on my channel from here on out, because I know a lot of people actually use my videos as escapism. However, I will be prominently posting about these issues on the social medias on screen now, so if you would like to hear me tackle these issues, then go there. Anyways, that's the end of this video. Keep supporting the movement. Black lives do matter. Thanks for watching, I'm bad at outros, and I'll see you in whatever I do next.